Thank you for listening. This course was created to help you succeed in your educational journey. Learn more at baremetalcyber.com, where additional podcasts, books, newsletters, and cool merchandise await. Let's get started. Cybersecurity at its most advanced level is not simply about deploying individual tools, but about weaving them into an integrated defense. When security is reduced to isolated controls, gaps inevitably emerge, and attackers exploit the spaces between them. A well-designed system is architectural in nature, combining technical controls with processes and human factors to create resilience. Integration ensures that defenses work together, covering blind spots and reinforcing one another. At its heart, this is about aligning people, processes, and technology around organizational priorities, rather than treating them as separate silos. Learners should see that cybersecurity maturity depends less on accumulating technologies and more on orchestrating them into coherent systems that deliver resilience even under stress. The importance of integration becomes clear when examining common control failures. Encryption, for instance, protects data in transit and at rest, but without strong identity controls, encrypted data may still fall into the wrong hands. Multi-factor authentication is one of the strongest safeguards against credential theft, but if networks are flat and unsegmented, an attacker who gains one foothold may still roam freely. Application testing may find vulnerabilities, yet its benefits are undermined if the supply chain is compromised and malicious code enters through dependencies. These examples illustrate that no control exists in isolation. Security effectiveness arises from interconnection, where the strength of one defense supports the others. Learners should understand that resilience is a system property, not a feature of any single tool. Frameworks provide a vital foundation for this system-level approach. The NIST Cybersecurity Framework, recently expanded to 6 lifecycle functions, offers a structured way to manage risk across identification, protection, detection, response, recovery, and governance. ISO 27001 and ISO 27005 formalize risk processes, bringing discipline and auditability to management systems. FAIR, the factor analysis of information risk, translates technical risks into financial terms that executives can weigh alongside other business concerns. OWASP frameworks highlight application and API priorities, ensuring that common software flaws remain visible in strategic planning. For learners, the value of frameworks lies not only in the controls they reference, but also in the shared vocabulary they provide, enabling communication across technical and business audiences. The principle of layered defense illustrates how integration is translated into practical architecture. By applying multiple overlapping safeguards, organizations reduce their reliance on any one control. Segmentation limits an attacker's ability to move laterally once inside, while monitoring detects compromises early before they escalate. Recovery capabilities ensure that even if prevention fails, operations can be restored in a timely fashion. Layered defense is not redundant waste, it is deliberate redundancy designed to absorb shocks. Learners should see this principle as the embodiment of resilience, a recognition that failure will happen, but its impact can be constrained when defenses overlap and reinforce one another. Defense in depth brings this layering principle into everyday practice. Zero Trust ensures that every access request is validated, denying attackers the opportunity to exploit implicit trust. Ransomware is mitigated not only by prevention, but by recovery planning, which ensures that encrypted data can be restored from resilient backups. Redundant controls reinforce each other, preventing single points of catastrophic failure. Defense in depth is not only about technology but also about design thinking, anticipating that prevention is never perfect and that resilience requires redundancy. Learners should understand that this philosophy is what elevates cybersecurity from a collection of measures to a deliberate architecture capable of withstanding sophisticated adversaries. Trade-offs are unavoidable in secure design, and leaders must learn to balance them carefully. Stronger encryption enhances confidentiality but can reduce system performance, frustrating users who expect seamless experiences. Stricter authentication strengthens assurance, but may provoke user resistance if processes become cumbersome. Segmentation improves containment but increases operational complexity, requiring skilled management. Leaders are tasked with balancing these factors: usability, cost, and resilience, while aligning them with business objectives. For learners, these trade-offs reveal the reality that security is never absolute. It exists in tension with performance, cost, and user expectations, and wise leadership lies in finding the equilibrium that sustains both protection and productivity. Governance plays a decisive role in shaping secure design. Technical experts are responsible for recommending controls that are feasible, effective, and aligned with industry best practices. Yet executives and boards must weigh these options against business priorities, budgets, and usability needs. Governance provides the structure that ensures accountability for these choices, preventing decisions from being made in isolation. Leadership also brings clarity, ensuring that competing priorities are balanced rather than ignored. Without governance, even the most technically sound designs risk being undermined by organizational misalignment or a lack of sustained support. Learners should see governance not as bureaucracy but as the mechanism that ties security decisions to enterprise strategy, ensuring coherence between technology and leadership. The consequences of design failures are evident in real-world case studies. Poor segmentation has left sensitive databases directly exposed, while weak identity controls have enabled privilege escalation by attackers. In flat network architectures, intruders who breach one system can often compromise many others without significant barriers. These architectural flaws magnify the damage of breaches, turning what could have been isolated incidents into enterprise-wide crises. For learners, these failures serve as cautionary tales, emphasizing that design oversights have tangible, costly consequences. Security lapses are rarely just the result of a single misconfigured device. They often reflect systemic weaknesses rooted in flawed architectural decisions. By contrast, resilient design demonstrates how thoughtful architecture can limit damage and speed recovery. Organizations that implement layered defenses find that even when attackers gain entry, segmentation and monitoring can contain their movement. Governance ensures that incident readiness is more than a technical exercise, embedding it in organizational culture and planning. Resilient architectures not only minimize disruption but also enable faster restoration of critical services. For learners, these examples highlight the value of proactive design choices. Resilience is not an accidental outcome, but a deliberate result of prioritizing layered controls, governance, and readiness at the design stage. Anticipating adversaries is a cornerstone of effective security architecture. Ransomware operators now target backups directly, aiming to weaken recovery and force ransom payments. Advanced persistent threats exploit trusted supply chain partners, turning relationships into vectors of infiltration. Insiders misuse legitimate credentials, bypassing traditional defenses. Proactive design assumes that adversaries will be creative, seeking the weakest links that defenders overlook. By anticipating these tactics, architects can design safeguards that frustrate attacker strategies before they succeed. Learners should recognize that defensive architecture is not static. It evolves in response to how attackers innovate, making anticipation as important as reaction. Recovery and continuity planning are essential elements of resilient design. Business continuity focuses on ensuring that essential services remain available even under attack, while disaster recovery restores full operations after disruption. Backups are central to these efforts, but they must be segmented, encrypted, and regularly tested to provide real assurance. Rehearsals of recovery processes validate that teams can perform under pressure, ensuring plans translate into real capability. Learners should see recovery and continuity not as afterthoughts, but as core pillars of secure design. They remind us that security is not just about keeping attackers out, but about ensuring organizations can withstand and recover from inevitable breaches. Together, governance, resilient design, adversary anticipation, and continuity planning show that architecture is about more than technology. It is about integrating strategy, leadership, and foresight into structures that can endure attack. Learners should take away that secure design is not measured by the absence of breaches, but by the ability to contain, respond, and recover when breaches occur. The most resilient organizations accept that failure will happen, but build systems and cultures designed to absorb shocks and emerge stronger. This perspective elevates architecture from a technical discipline to a leadership responsibility, guiding how organizations prepare for an uncertain future. For more cyber-related content and books, please check out cyberauthor.me. Also, there are other prepcasts on cybersecurity and more at baremetalcyber.com. Monitoring and detection are critical components of resilient architecture. A security information and event management system, or SIEM, aggregates logs and events from across the enterprise, creating a centralized view of activity. Endpoint detection and response, or EDR, adds further visibility at the device level, spotting anomalies that may signal intrusion. Analytics help distinguish meaningful signals from the overwhelming noise generated by modern systems. The key insight is that monitoring cannot be bolted on afterward. It must be embedded at the design stage. Learners should recognize that without monitoring, even the strongest defenses operate blindly, leaving organizations unable to see or respond effectively to adversaries already inside their networks. Yet visibility has its limits, and poor design choices can create blind spots. Logging gaps leave defenders unaware of critical events, while excessive alerts overwhelm analysts, obscuring genuine incidents in a flood of false positives. Monitoring is only effective when it is prioritized and structured, with design choices ensuring that the right information reaches defenders in a usable form. Learners should appreciate that clarity is more important than volume. A well-designed monitoring architecture does not simply collect data, it curates it, ensuring that defenders can act quickly and decisively. Blindness and noise are equally dangerous, each reducing the effectiveness of detection when it matters most. Communication plays an equally vital role in secure design. Technical leaders must be able to explain architectural decisions to executives in plain language, connecting security choices to business goals. Frameworks such as NIST, CSF, or ISO standards provide shared vocabularies that help bridge technical and non-technical perspectives. By using clear narratives, security leaders can demonstrate how investments in controls directly support resilience, customer trust, and regulatory compliance. Learners should see communication not as an optional skill but as a core competency. Without it, even the best-designed architectures risk being underfunded or misunderstood, leaving gaps that adversaries can exploit. Zero Trust provides an instructive example of how storytelling supports adoption. When explained as an abstract security model, it may seem remote or overly technical, but when framed in terms of preventing insider misuse, limiting ransomware spread, or containing breaches, its rationale becomes clear to stakeholders. Case studies illustrate how Zero Trust has mitigated real-world attacks, providing compelling evidence for investment. Narratives transform technical philosophy into strategic action, aligning executives and boards around its importance. Learners should recognize that the ability to tell these stories effectively is as important as technical fluency, enabling leaders to secure resources and commitment. Emerging technologies constantly reshape secure design. Post-quantum cryptography promises to alter key management practices once quantum computing becomes capable of breaking today's algorithms. Artificial intelligence empowers defenders with advanced detection capabilities, but it also enhances attackers' ability to automate reconnaissance and craft convincing phishing campaigns. Edge computing expands both complexity and resilience, distributing workloads closer to users while introducing new surfaces to defend. Learners should understand that while foundations such as layered defense and Zero Trust remain stable, their applications evolve continuously. Security architecture is therefore not a one-time design, but a living system that adapts to technological change. The continuous process of design reflects the dynamic nature of cybersecurity. Systems must be reviewed and updated regularly, not only in response to threats, but also to account for business changes such as mergers, acquisitions, or new regulations. Frameworks are most effective when applied dynamically, guiding updates as conditions evolve. Static architectures quickly become obsolete, leaving organizations exposed to attackers who exploit outdated assumptions. Learners should see that security architecture is an ongoing process rather than a finished product. The discipline lies in sustaining attention and revisiting assumptions, ensuring that defenses remain relevant in the face of constant change. The capstone role of integration is to bring together all the elements of cybersecurity, cryptography, identity, networks, applications, and supply chain into a holistic architecture. It is not enough to understand these domains in isolation. Resilience comes from how they interconnect. Frameworks such as NIST CSF, ISO standards, and OWASP provide the scaffolding, but architects must weave them into a coherent whole. Learners should see integration as the defining skill of leadership in cybersecurity. It requires recognizing limitations, anticipating trade-offs, and designing systems that achieve resilience through coordination. The ability to synthesize across domains is what distinguishes technicians from strategic leaders. Student learning outcomes from this integrative approach include more than technical fluency. Graduates must be able to articulate the assumptions and trade-offs embedded in secure design. They must also be able to explain architecture to non-technical leaders, translating controls into business outcomes. Readiness to link security measures to operational resilience and regulatory assurance is essential. By practicing this linkage, learners prepare themselves for leadership roles where the ability to justify and communicate design is as important as the ability to implement it. The true measure of mastery is the ability to bridge technical and executive perspectives seamlessly. Humility is another essential trait in secure design. No architecture is perfect or permanent, because adversaries adapt faster than static defenses. Even the strongest systems eventually reveal limitations, whether through newly discovered vulnerabilities, insider misuse, or unforeseen dependencies. Acknowledging these limits is not weakness but resilience, as it fosters continuous improvement. Learners should recognize humility as a mindset that fuels vigilance and adaptability. By admitting that no defense is absolute, leaders create organizations that evolve rather than stagnate. Humility is therefore not only a personal virtue, but a strategic necessity in cybersecurity. Strategic vision is the final quality future leaders must cultivate. Effective security leadership requires integrating technical expertise with governance insight, balancing innovation with protection, and preparing organizations for adversaries whose tactics continually evolve. Strategic vision means looking beyond the immediate deployment of tools to consider how systems must change over time. It requires leading with resilience and adaptability as guiding principles, ensuring that architectures can withstand not only today's threats but tomorrow's uncertainties. Learners should aspire to this broader perspective, recognizing that leadership in security is less about perfection and more about sustaining trust under pressure. Ultimately, security is about enabling trust. Systems are designed not just to repel attacks, but to build confidence among stakeholders that essential services will remain available, reliable, and secure. Resilience sustains value delivery even under attack, and architecture provides the integration that makes this possible. Learners should see trust as the ultimate outcome of defense trust in data, in systems, in organizations, and in leadership. Trust is what allows enterprises to operate, innovate, and grow despite constant threats. In this way, security is not merely protection but empowerment, making trust both the goal and the measure of success. The conclusion of this capstone is that cybersecurity education culminates in the ability to design integrated, resilient systems. Resilience is not achieved through isolated tools, but through frameworks, layered defenses, and strategic governance. Emerging threats demand adaptability and foresight, requiring leaders who can balance technical detail with organizational priorities. Learners should leave with the conviction that protecting people, organizations, and societies is possible through thoughtful architecture. This is the essence of leadership in cybersecurity, to design not for invulnerability but for resilience, adaptability, and enduring trust. Thanks for tuning in to Bare Metal Cyber, your trusted source for cybersecurity educational materials, news, and insights. Remember to subscribe at baremetalcyber.com so you never miss an update. And visit cyberauthor.me for best-selling cybersecurity books that equip you with expert knowledge. Until next time, stay secure and stay vigilant.